Good afternoon. This is the IOL PowerPoint presentation, the content-based presentation of DPPE and DJPE for the subject Physical and Health Education 21. I'm the presenter, Mrs. Ansie Steyn, and my contact email address is ansiesteyn@hotmail.com. Now, good day. This contact class is to help you prepare for the examinations of the subject DPPE and DJPE, Physical and Health Education 21. I will discuss some of the content of your study guide in order to help you prepare for the coming exams. By now, you should have a good idea what the subject is about, because you have completed an assignment and studied the study guide systematically. Please note that I cannot give attention to the whole content, so should you have any questions, please contact me for help. You can either phone me or mail me. In the latter case, I can send you a well-constructed, detailed answer to your questions. Please also note that you only need to study your study guide for the coming exams. Before you study the actual content, you first need to acquaint yourself with the learning outcomes of each unit. These learning outcomes form the core of your studies and guide you through the content of each unit and can be found at the beginning of each unit. After you've studied this, you will know what the unit is all about. Thereafter, you must look at the learning activities which follow the learning outcomes. It will be wise to do all these activities to the best of your ability before looking at the answers at the end of each unit. After you've completed them, you can go back to the answers at the end of the unit and measure your knowledge against the complete answers. In this way, you will get to know the content and also will know how questions can be asked in the exams. The study guide contains adequate information and facts. It is not necessary to study from any other source for the exams. I'm going to discuss each unit separately and stress the most important facts. Please make sure to take note of these and get to know the facts by heart. Remember that when answering a question, facts from different parts of the study guide can be applicable. It is not necessarily limited to one part of the guide. It is important to note that although physical and health education may seem as a non-exam subject for the learners and a period where learners are encouraged to explore in a less formal environment, you as teacher should exactly know how to keep them busy and how and why certain activities should be presented. Very important. Therefore, the teacher should know certain facts about the subject PHE, as well as the correct procedures regarding the presenting of PHE. It is therefore of utmost importance that you as student teacher should know facts regarding the subject PHE. I stress this because some students are of the opinion that this subject does not need to be studied for, and then they do poorly in the exams. So take time to know your study guide in order to present adequate facts during the exams. Before I go to the units, I just want to give a few hints for the examinations. First of all, write neatly and legibly. You may use blue or black pen. Please do not even consider being dishonest. If you found out, you will receive a 0 for the question paper. You may not leave the exam room before 30 minutes have expired, and if you do leave, you may not come back to continue answering the question paper. Also, you may not leave the exam venue during the last 15 minutes of the exams. Remember to sign the checklist. No smoking or eating is allowed in the room. Only paper provided by the invigilator will be accepted. So if you need more paper to answer your questions, ask them to provide you with paper. If you turn up 30 minutes after the exams have started, you will not be allowed to write. And this will result in no turn up. And make sure to know what is expected of you when a question is asked. So read through the verb's thinking processes, or called action verbs, in 6 at the beginning of the study guide. For example, define means you have to give the precise, brief meaning of something. And describe means you have to give detailed features of an issue. Please note that short answer questions will be asked, and the following kinds of questions can be asked. First of all, definitions, for example, of the fitness terminology in 1.4 of the Junior Primary Study Guide, and also 1.4 in the Pre-Primary Study Guide. For example, flexibility. The definition of flexibility is the ability of the various joints in the body to move through their full range of motion. This is the definition. But study all the definitions in 1.4 to know what each terminology entails. For you to know the short answers, you have to know the content of the study guide. So make sure to know the facts. Now the reference numbers, for example, if I say in 1.4, in the study guide are important. Make sure to take note of these and study them. But just to name or list certain facts are also short answer questions. For example, to list certain features of a good playground can be a water play area, sand play area, a garden, a grass cover, hard surface area, and murals. And that you will find in 3.2 of both study guides. The same goes to big play equipment found on a good playground, if you have to list or name them. They are climbing structures, slides, swings, tunnels, trampolines, and horizontal bars, to name just a few. So let us look at each unit now. Now, because the DPPE and DJPE PHE 12 courses have been combined, I will discuss the Junior Primary Study Guide, but I will also indicate where to find the same content in the Pre-Primary Study Guide. So let's turn to Unit 1 then, of both study guides. This unit is about the aspects of the physiology of exercise and basic health. Important in this unit is to know the study field of physiology in 1.1 and the meanings of fitness terminology in 1.4. That's in both study guides. I'm going to say it again. The study field of physiology is in 1.1 of both study guides, and the meanings of fitness terminology is in 1.4 of both study guides. Also in both study guides in 1.3, the importance of health and fitness is discussed in detail. To be healthy and fit is a distinct advantage, and exercise promotes health and fitness because people become and remain fit. It keeps the body disease-free. It enhances the cardiovascular and respiratory system. It combats diseases and it also controls weight, which is a definite positive feature. In fact, there are many other reasons why exercise is important. See them in 1.3 of your study guide. PE is about exercising the body, so make sure to know the reasons for presenting exercise to learners. But physical education also contributes to the emotional, not just the physical, the emotional stability of the learners as set out in 1.9, in the sense that it reduces stress, it improves self-confidence, it creates a sense of belonging when group activities take place, and it contributes to the emotional well-being of the learners in many other ways. Study them all to know them, as found in 1.9. When we turn to Unit 2, the aspects of movement theory and games for different phases of learners are discussed. A physical education teacher should know which sport type develop which skills, as set out in 2.1. Do you know the 3 categories of movement skills? They are locomotion, manipulation, and stability, as seen in 2.1. In 2.3, the phases of motor development are discussed. Study to know them. And then the very important issue of which games would be appropriate for pre-primary learners. Why important? Because certain age groups are ready for certain games. If you teach them too difficult games and activities, they will not be able to participate in a meaningful way, and they will feel that they are inadequate to achieve success. If you teach them too easy activities, on the other hand, they will quickly lose interest. So what are the criteria then? See and study them in 2.4 of your study guide. I will mention a few criteria. Does it provide safe play? Does it meet the needs of children with varying abilities? Does it build on skills, concepts, and strategies they were taught previously so that they know what and how to do it? So these are some of the criteria. I only mentioned a few. Study them all, but not only know them, but also know what each criteria means in detail. In other words, you must be able to discuss each criteria too. Know the criteria and discuss them. Again, in this unit, take note of the learning outcomes as well as the learning activities to test yourself whether you know the content well enough. There are many other aspects covered in this unit, so turn to the learning activities to study them so that you cover the most important aspects of this unit. In fact, after you've read through each unit, answer the learning activities questions on your own and look up the correct answers at the end of each unit to monitor whether you know the content of the specific unit. This is very important. Remember that PE is an important subject at school and you should know facts in order to present it successfully. So facts are asked in the exams, not just an overview of the subject. I stress this because I experience that many students think they need not study this subject and then they do poorly in the exams. I can in fact hardly stress this enough. We finished with Unit 2 now, so let's turn to Unit 3, where the good playground features are set out in detail. This means that the playground are not just a lot of equipment put there to entertain learners and keep them busy. These equipment are on the playground to enhance coordination, balance, flexibility, strength, agility, rhythm, etc. See that in 3.1. Can you think of playground equipment which help to enhance these skills? I'm only going to mention one. A merry-go-round on the playground will enhance eye-foot coordination because the eyes must work with what the feet must do in order to push the apparatus successfully. There are many other equipment which provide opportunities to practice certain skills, and make sure to study this content in 3.1. In 3.3, you will find big play equipment which help develop children's skills. For example, climbing structures are excellent for gross motor skills, large motor skills, because they push and pull. Their skills are exercised and developed. So one can say that big play equipment are very important on a playground because they develop learners physically, but also emotionally, socially, and also cognitively. To find out the content in detail, please study this in 3.3. Unit 4 covers the very important issue of safety and supervision of learners on the playground. And that's where the teacher comes in. Because young children in general do not have the ability to always know when certain situations can be dangerous, and because they play without thinking what is dangerous and what not, supervision is of utmost importance. So the first important issue will be to place equipment in such a way that they can prevent injuries and that supervision can be made easy. See 4.1 in both study guide for details. Prevention is also always better than cure. So in 4.4, the safety features and measures are set out. Like, for instance, to make sure that all learners know that there are certain rules to be obeyed at all times. Teachers should also be on duty and on the outlook for possibilities of injuries and dangerous situations. The ratio of learners and teachers should be correct. In other words, not too many learners per teacher. The playground should be free of litter, and play equipment should be checked regularly for any potential hazards and breakages. These are only a few precaution measures. Study to know them all in 4.4. But injuries and accidents do occur in spite of good supervision, and how to deal with these injuries and accidents are set out in 4.5. It is crucial for a teacher to know how to operate should this occur. For instance, first aid should be offered immediately. Make sure whether the child may be moved or not, and whether movement possibility may aggravate the injury. If seriously injured, let the parents know. If necessary, a doctor should be consulted. And very important, record the injury on the student card. The principal should also be informed if seriously injured. These are facts you should know. I only touch on this Study this extensively as found in 4.5. So in Unit 5, suitable indoor and outdoor play areas are covered. Acquaint yourself with with what each one entails. You should know what criteria suitable indoor areas should meet as set out in 5.2, but also the criteria outdoor areas should meet as set out in 5.3. Make sure to know this content in detail. This is very important for a teacher to know. So you'll notice that even the play areas are set up to meet certain criteria and not just put up randomly and without a goal. Here you will notice that facts should be known in order to be an effective, outstanding and special teacher. As in the other units, remember to study the learning activities. Unit 6 is about training issues and the management of sporting events. The question arises why athletes should warm up before taking part in an event. The heart should gradually increase the rate at which it is pumping blood to the rest of the body, and warming up also helps prevent injuries. To mention just a few advantages of warming up exercises. Read through Unit 6 to acquaint yourself with them. But there are quite a few warming up techniques. See 6.2 in your study guide for this. In fact, different exercises for different athletic items are discussed in 6.3 for short distance runners and in 6.4 for long jumpers. This unit is very practical in the sense that certain techniques are discussed and a physical education teacher should know them in order to train good athletes. Come to think of it, what will the qualities of a good coach be? Can you name a few qualities? I will mention a few, but there are many more as discussed in 6.9 of both study guide. For instance, a good coach has a deep understanding of the sport. He or she knows each athlete, their good and their less good qualities. He or she should be a motivator, so important to make the most of the athletes. A coach should also be a good communicator. If a coach cannot communicate exactly what he or she means and wants from the athletes, failure will take place on a regular basis. There are so many other qualities a good coach should have. Study to know them all. The last point I want to touch on is the very important issue of good sportsmanship. See 6.8 in your study guide for this. What would you say? Will the following be an example of good or bad sportsmanship? To run on the field and attack the referee verbally when you feel the wrong decision was made. Surely this will portray bad sportsmanship because one can discuss the decisions with the referee after the game in a calm, positive way. Maybe you did not notice what has happened on the field. The referee is closer to the players and can see what happens in the inner circle. For a coach to set a bad example will be degrading, and the players will lose respect for the coach due to his or her bad example. Children copy their idols' actions, and a coach should always portray good, exemplary behavior. I do not have time to discuss all the facts regarding this important issue, but study them in detail. As always, will it be worthwhile to study all the learning activities and learning outcomes of this unit. Now this concludes my discussion of the study guide. Please note that time does not allow me to discuss the whole content of the study guide, but many important facts were discussed during this class. Make sure to give attention to the facts which I discussed here. We now have worked through the study guide and highlighted the most important content. Start studying by working through the study guide systematically and doing it unit by unit, giving special attention to the content of this contact class. Good luck with this. Start early, start every day. Even if it's only half an hour or an hour of constructive study per day, it will help you getting acquainted with the work. I invite you to contact me should you have any questions or uncertainties regarding your subject. Enjoy the studies and do your best.